Hello, hello, and welcome back to the My Sugar-Free Journey podcast. And today we are talking to Mark Cucuzzella. Mark, I've heard several podcasts that he's been on, and he has a wealth of information. And I was just talking to him before the podcast that I actually hope that we get to everything that I want to talk to. If not, we'll do something again later. But there's a lot that he's doing, to help people. So, Dr. Mark Cucuzzella, welcome to the show.
Well, Aaron, so glad to be on your show, and just the title of your show and what you're doing is right up my alley. We're applying those same things in my hospital. We have a sugar-free Jefferson Medical Center. So, yeah, I love the sugar-free. Have a website in development, Sugar-Free West Virginia.
Oh, so good.
We're on the same, mission here, chaotic mission.
That's absolutely right. So yeah, I definitely want to talk about how you got a hospital to go sugar-free because, my wife was in the hospital a year or two ago for something minor and we almost couldn't eat the food. I mean, they brought it in. I was like, Mike, do I have to go home and make food and bring it back? Because it was
it's sad. Like if you're hospitalized,
yeah,
most of the people, the reason you're there is from all the crap you eat, and then they feed you the crap that brought you there to begin with.
Exactly. So let's start with your background. How, who are you? How did you get to how'd you get the doctor on your name? We'll start there.
Gosh, I'm 52 now, Aaron. And, I went through the traditional route. I went to, high school, college, University of Virginia. It was athletics. So that's where I got into the whole running stuff we were talking about.
Right.
The running actually is what got me interested in medicine because, I've made all the dumb running mistakes and had every injury you could possibly have and sought out, people that knew what they were doing. And I'm like, man, I want to do that maybe when I get older, do that medical stuff. Because the only thing I'd been exposed to was sports medicine. So went to medical school thinking I was going to do like orthopedic sports medicine primarily. But when I got to med school, I got interested in human health. In addition to all the sports injuries, which I still love to help people with. And didn't have any money, so I had the military help me with my medical school. It's a little flyer on an elevator. Don't have money for med school. Here's the Air Force recruiter. And that was a nice place to go, So they covered my school and spent 10 years active duty working with airmen and just met so many amazing people through my Air Force active duty life, and then stayed on 19 more as a reservist while working in kind of the academic space of medicine. So I was at University of Colorado, and then for family reasons, we came back east. Now I'm at West Virginia University, based out of my hospital is in Ranson, West Virginia, which isn't too far from DC. So I've been, 25 years practicing medicine, practicing, right? Because we're still learning and
Right.
Every day, I learn so much from podcasts, and from my patients. And so that's what I do now. I do mostly hospital-based medicine. So I'm in what's called a critical access hospital. So we're all just a small group of family practice generalists doing all the hospital critical care. So we take care of the whole patient. I can't call the lung person to take care of that part and the heart person to take care of that part. So that's how you learn about the whole body. But then West Virginia University opened a clinic up, which allowed me to do low carbohydrate therapy to help remove medications from patients and help them lose weight through low carb, because we started doing it in my hospital.
I do want to cut you off because you're hitting on a couple themes that I like to talk about. Number one, the fact that we are just a person, that we're not a big lung, that we're not a big heart, that we're not, that everything feeds into everything else. But more importantly, how did you make that journey from, because I know in medical school you weren't taught to eat a low carb diet or to get your patients onto a low carb diet.
No.
How did you make that transition?
It was probably just sheer dumb luck. I came across a few pretty key reads. So about 7 years ago, I was on a 6-month Air Force extended assignment to help with a fitness test. At that time, a new general had come on and kind of tightened up the screws of the fitness test and made the running more difficult. And maybe some of your listeners are former military. And I was like the running guy. So they brought me on to help with the running program. But the first step of that project was kind of a root cause analysis to why people failed the test. And I saw that there was a direct correlation of body mass index and failure rates. And my bias and assumption, was, of course, well, these people just need to eat less and exercise more. And
right.
And but we kind of threw out a lot of that stuff when we looked at the data because they were in the same units, doing the same PT, even at the same chow hall. And I happened to just, I was research, and I realized pretty quick I knew nothing about nutrition, so that was probably a good thing. So I didn't. I mean, I told people all the wrong stuff. I thought that they needed to, cut calories, and I told many people that wrongly for many years of my life. I looked at my own labs too, and I was pre-diabetic range on blood sugar at the time while running marathons. So a couple things came together, and then the first article that really made me think, and the internet was coming in then, and there was public data. So I somehow Gary Taubes' original article, maybe it's all been a big fat lie, came across my Google search. And I opened that article, and I was like, that's interesting. Because I'm in West Virginia, the most obese state, and I'm witnessing that nothing I'm doing is helping people. I'm like, nothing I'm doing, nothing my colleagues are doing are helping people. And my labs are all whacked because maybe I was the guy who was burning the calories, but I was waking up at 2 a.m. eating cereal because I had to. I couldn't get through the night. So it led me to buy his book. So his first book was called Good Calories, Bad Calories, a 450-page how many reps? There's like
tome. Yeah, I mean that was a book. That was a book for medical professionals. I read that damn thing twice,
and I was like, "Oh my God, I think I've got it wrong." And then I spent a lot of that time, Aaron, traveling to military bases, doing these little mini courses on really like teaching them how to run without breaking themselves. And I'd always, because we addressed nutrition, after I'd read Gary's books, I wanted to kind of do like a little small survey study. So every time I'd go to a base, be in the base gym, 100 people there. They're not doctors. They're just people who want to pass the test. I'd ask this question. Anyone in the audience lost 50 pounds, kept it off for a year? Maybe one hand go up, two hands. Lady, dude, what you do? And across the board, 100%, adherence that they all would say something like this. They'd say, well, I got rid of sugar. I got rid of bread. I did Atkins. I did paleo. Like it was all kind of a similar, there was no like low carb or keto, none of that terminology. They all kind of described to me what they did, and it was all soda, it was all sugar reduction. And I was like, okay, I think there's something to this. And then I started, a lot of literature, Aaron, had already been published. It was just suppressed. I read all Finney and Volek's stuff, and Westman came back to my hospital and said, look, we need to change the way we feed the diabetes patients in the hospital. Got a little resistance, but they let me do it. And I was kind of, because it's a small hospital, it's a 24-bed hospital, and I didn't have to deal with cardiologists who told me that, giving patients eggs was going to kill them. Right. So they gave me this leash. They said, look, if you're going to take responsibility for these people, you can feed that bacon and eggs for breakfast. Maybe, we had a 10-gram carb per meal menu in a hospital. So the standard lowest carb menu that you could order in a hospital, any hospital, because it's the ADA guidelines at the time. It's been revised a little bit, but still hospitals are on this 60-gram carb per meal is the lowest. That is a, quote, ADA diet. And they restrict calories. Like I would be in the electronic record, it'd be like 1,800 calorie ADA diet, which is almost a starvation diet. So they let me do this, and you would like this, Aaron. So this was our diet, because the goal isn't weight loss in the hospital. The goal is helping the metabolism. So it would be 10-gram carb, double eggs, double meat, extra salad, and then say no bread, soda, sugar drinks, or anything. So it was actually like more food than people could eat. But what they would see is, wow, like my blood sugars are the best they've ever been. Right. And you've lowered my insulin at the same time, and I'm not exercising, right? They're laying on their ass in a hospital bed.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's definitely what I saw.
It is. It's like people are there in a controlled environment, and yeah, and it's like it's real, and the patients saw it. They're like, wow, that's fascinating. You've done it. It's not like this is an easy thing. So it's like, look, yeah, you can do this when you get home. I know this stuff's addictive. And so we did that for a few years in the hospital. Had a number of nurses lost a lot of weight, and I think that was what allowed us to get the sugar beverages out of the hospital, because it was like that wisdom of the crowds thing. People are saying, look, we need to like scale this up. It wasn't me like, nanny state stuff. It was people making change who cared, who cared about the patient.
Yeah. Right. So how many years ago was that? Did you start it?
Yeah, so we started low carb in my hospital about 6 years ago. We started the discussions on getting sugar out probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and about 1 year ago we got all sugared beverages out. So there is still some sugar, so they still make some homemade cookies that are there on the side, but actually our cafeteria is amazingly good. What we serve patients, there's really no junk food.
Good.
So there's some bread. Not everyone needs to be on a low carb diet, but all the sugar, I don't think there's any room in a hospital to have sugar sweetened drinks because that is a toxin,
Yeah.
flat out. And we can't be doing that. And we have to set, if we want schools to get rid of this stuff, and if we're not ready to get rid of it in our own hospital, then we need to get out of the game. So, but yeah, no one's asked for my head yet, Aaron, which is nice a year in. And what's really nice is, so I'm a small campus, and West Virginia University system is a big system. So the mothership is like an 800, 1,000 bed hospital. So we're in discussions now for incremental change in that hospital with the goal in 1 year of having all the drinks out. But that's a bigger, like a bigger rock to move. But it's great.
So how are you making that case? Like, I'm sure you have to to make that case and show, multiple case studies, or at least some kind of, numbers where you're showing these stable A1Cs or lower rates of taking people's toes off. Or I mean, what are some of the numbers that you're bringing to the table here?
Yeah, so really, what I brought to the table, the nurses, it's pretty physical evidence, when you've got like a half dozen nurses who've lost 50 to 100 pounds. And luckily, my dean, so the deans are kind of captain of the ship. And my dean at the time had been involved. We also have a grant teaching medical students how to cook and nutrition, which is not a common thing in medical school.
That's interesting.
Our partner in this was Robert Lustig. So this was a bit disruptive about 5 years ago. So we kind of seeded that in. So my dean really understood Robert Lustig and the sugar. He is Sugar, the Bitter Truth. Probably most of your audience, if this is a sugar show, I think
his book Fat Chance was crucial in those early days for me.
Oh gosh, yeah, his work, he was brave work. Mm-hmm. And then the little 1 hour YouTube video,
right.
That we share with patients is amazing. So he basically, we had enough. I'd come with my stack of papers, but you got resistance from, it's not their fault. So nurses and dietitians are adherent to their guidelines. Like, so if they stray from their guidelines, they're outliers and they can't do it. Doctors, for better or worse, we can do whatever the hell we want. But the nurses and the dietitians are kind of adhered to those guidelines. So our dean blessed, because there was some pushback, right? You can't do this, right? It's against the guidelines. So we all sat down at a table, which is a good thing to do. And our dean stepped up and said, no, you guys, this is okay. Mark's here. If he's going to, this is okay. This is legit. This is science. This is how we move forward. And then that's all I needed was my dean to step up and say, this is okay. And then all the resistance went away, because then, your nurse administrators weren't fearing for retribution. It's sad. Like they fear, they could totally understand low carb, but if they're in a hospital and they go against the nursing standards of care, even if they're back in the 80s, yep, then they're gone, right? It's crazy. Yeah, it is. Your audience, you're like, it can't work that way, but that's the way it works.
And I found that it's the dietitians that you get the strongest pushback, because you're kind of infringing on their territory and you're doing the exact opposite of how they've been taught. Yeah.
So actually, my dietitian at my hospital, certainly it took some sit downs at lunch, and we're all just learning, right?
Right.
She understood it, right? She's like, yeah, that makes sense. Look around, like people working in the kitchens, A1Cs are coming down. That's pretty amazing, right? That doesn't happen without medication in medical textbooks. You need medications to lower A1Cs. So she actually made up, some beautiful low carb menus. I go down there and thank the kitchen staff, every time they do like a great meal, you thank, they're the lowest paid employees in the hospital. But when they feel, it's crazy, Aaron, when they feel like they're part of the medical team, you like empower them, and, you know them first name basis, Doc walks down, and says, hey, gosh, great meal you made today, they really feel good. And makes me feel good too, to be able to acknowledge them for what they're doing for our patients. So, I have files, and I'd be glad to share with you these so our dietitian worked with the kitchen, so when I write 10-gram carb per meal, it's not just eggs every day, right? They're going to be kind of sick of that, so it's, they've got like a rotating 5-day menu, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it might be 8 grams, it might be 12 grams, no one counts the stuff exactly, but it's, it's in the right proportions, of just following lists.
No sugar, no refined grains.
Yeah. Okay, there might be a few too many, beans on that one or something, which might be, maybe that chef didn't know that beans were a little starchy, but that, heck, it's green. It's okay. So it's a win in my book. Most doctors don't know that, right? So if the kitchen staff understands that a pea's more starchy than asparagus, it's like, holy cow, more than 80% of the docs.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's kind of the thing that we're finding is that when it comes to nutrition, everyone specializes in their own thing. When it comes to nutrition, nobody's specializing in a low carb diet. The cost. How about food cost? Has that gone up? Have you been able to keep it stable?
Yeah, the cost of the food is a wash. So if our kitchen has to make eggs instead of French toast, that's a wash. As far as a hospital bill goes, I think that, they get the stuff. So it's Sodexo. So we have a vendor. So they just buy the food from the vendor and they'll prepare, the meals. So I don't think we did have to do it. And luckily we had a very good hospital legal team, lawyer. So we did have to work with a contract with Coca-Cola, because hospitals have contracts with vendors, including beverage vendors. So like if I'm at West Virginia University, or for listeners at Michigan or some big institution, they're beholden to the contract from that institution. So if you went to, West Virginia University football game, for example, Coca-Cola is our vendor. And of course, they're not like all sugar-free drinks at the football game, but it's the same menu of fountain drinks. And that's what's in the hospital. That's what's in pretty much any facility. So we got a waiver to say, okay, no, we can remove those. We still have Coke products. We've got some, I think it's a Dasani Waters Coke, and we have Coke Zero. So you do incremental change. And we got a little clause in there that if we did lose some money, in vending drink sales from this, we're not going to be like shut down because, we lost $100, to a hospital. And we're actually collecting the data we're about 1 year in. And I'm interested to know, it'll be, because when we move to the big hospital, so we're small numbers, so did we lose a lot of money in drink sales? Just so we can be honest with the big hospital. I hope that wouldn't be a disincentive, but certainly if it's been a wash, like, okay, people just buy the Dasani flavored water and it's all good. I'd rather people just drink from the damn tap, but people like their drinks and their fuzzy stuff, but we'll see what that is. Now I'll let you know. So we're coming up April 1st, we're coming up on a year, and we can look at some of that data.
One of the things that I'm interested in is the people that are doing programs like yours. And there's not too many that are kind of trying to implement this. I'm curious to see if there will come a day that Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, these people that are supplying a lot of the foods, if they will start to push back. Because I'm interested in when money comes into conflict with health, who's going to win that fight? Because I think that'll tell us. Because I think if health wins that fight, that'll give us a lot of hope for this spreading, across the nation. But if it's money that wins that fight, boy, I don't know. How do you? I know it's early in the game, but how do you anticipate, or how do you see that going? Like, what do you? Yeah. What is?
I think we're gaining small victories, Aaron. So,
okay.
One of the professors at my institution was part of the Koch Global Energy Balance Network. Right?
Oh.
Remember that? Remember that? So that went away in 24 hours. So there's some good reporters out there. Nina Teicholz, Aaron Carroll's out there, Anahat O'Connor. So there were 3 medical folks who have published a lot, who are in leadership positions. And there's this chain of emails that I was privy to some of this stuff, and which led to the implication that these physicians and public health leaders were taking. It was up to like $1 million, or somewhere around that per year in their own pocket,
Yep.
to promote this concept of energy balance.
Yep.
And that was the website, the Koch Global Energy Balance Network. And as soon as those conflicts of interest got to public knowledge, that website went away in 24 hours. That was the most commented on New York Times article in their history.
Yep.
It's crazy. They had to shut down the comments because so that was like the first. So it's going to take investigative journalists to, like Nina Teicholz, getting in the game to expose all of these, deep-seated conflicts of interest. Then about a week later, the next level of that was Coca-Cola's influence in medical education, American Academy of Family Physicians, American Academy of Pediatrics. So they will donate all this money to these medical societies, who'll come out with these programs about eat less and exercise more. They want to promote, Coke is all about promoting exercise, which is all good, right? I mean, I'm all for exercise, but they want, and in that message, of course, is it's all about balance. So if you go to any vending machine, they'll talk about balance. They'll talk about balance. And because that's what they want you to believe.
Right.
That it's all about balance. And as you know, having lost 200 pounds, I mean, you and I can be frank, that's bullshit. It's not true. It is absolutely not true, because obesity is a hormonal dysregulatory disorder, period. It's an endocrine disorder, period. It's not about energy in and energy out. Gary Taubes' first book taught me that one. It took 1,000 references and 2 reads of that thing, but that's what it is. So I think we're winning.
I'm sorry.
Beverage sales are going down. But the problem is, Aaron, so the rest of the sugar is hiding in plain sight. So what we see is the beverage sales are going down, because that's this obvious stuff. But 80% of food bought in your local store has added sugar. So everyone's talking about the beverages, but if you really care about public health, that's not good enough. You got to go after the full Monty. You got to get rid of all of it. Little yogurt cups kids eat and they think are healthy.
Right.
There was a study last week about free school breakfast and unintended consequences. So what do you think the unintended consequences are of free school breakfast?
Obesity.
Which follow the obesity, of course. I want to feed kids too, but they need to feed the kids eggs. Yeah. Right? If we're feeding kids all that shit and they get more obese and become liabilities to healthcare and can't enlist in the military because they're too obese, we're not doing them any favors.
So the idea, let me switch to the military just for a minute, because this is another thing I'm interested in. What happens to our to our armed forces? What happens to our ability to defend ourselves if this obesity crisis moves forward at the rate that it is? What are we looking at?
Yeah, it is. It's a true crisis. So I presented this weekend at the U.S. Armed Forces Academy of Family Physicians Conference. So it's all the Army docs, Air Force docs, Navy, Coast Guard, Marines. And so this was my presentation, was on, because people are curious about this ketogenic diet, the term ketogenics. I gave a presentation on that. But I shared some of the data on obesity in the military. So 61% of Marines are overweight. Oh. 68. Yeah, you're like, whoa, these dudes are Marines. No, take some of them because that's BMI. Some of those guys are like muscle bound and could break you and I in half.
Sure.
But 68% of the Army is overweight. 63% of the Air Force is overweight.
And these are the people that are in the military already. And it's only
it's like you could just Google military obesity crisis and Military Times articles pop up. So they're the people in now and who are having to be discharged. So that's sad. I had a full military career. I loved every minute of it. I've got a retirement. It's a nice thing. But the real problem I see, Aaron, is the youth. Because I do a lot of stuff locally here with high school kids, health and science. They want to know about careers in medicine. And, when I go give a talk, they ask how I paid for it, and I'd be like, I was like you guys, I didn't have any money. I saw a little flyer and joined up with Uncle Sam, and
Right.
seemed like a good idea at the time. And like I look in the audience, and I'm scanning, because right now 1 of 5 in my state is eligible for military enlistment. Does not have a disqualifier. The number one disqualifier is fitness and obesity.
1 in 5.
You have all the mental health stuff, if you've been diagnosed with ADD or asthma, but they're just complete disqualifiers. But obesity is like the elephant in the room. Right. And so what I do gently, because I can't like give them medical treatment. I say, look, you want to get the military to pay for your school. Look, the most important thing you need to do is like your body is like the weapon, right? Because they all want to be like soldiers. So you got to treat that body. You got to like eat real food, and you got to exercise, because you will not be able to get in if you're soft. And these are high school kids. They want to, they want you to be honest with them. So we don't talk about dieting, or like that. I don't want to create eating disorders. I just want them to think like a military operator. Like, you want to be strong. You want to put good fuel in your body. You don't want to put shit in your body. Sodas. You'd laugh at them. I just tell them straight out, anything in these boxes and these vending machines, that's shit. No special forces dude, none of those SEAL dudes are putting that stuff in their body. And they're like, oh, I get that. Because they all want to be, when they vision the military, they want to be the person, they've watched the movies, right?
Right.
They want to be like John Rambo. So they don't vision the dude sitting behind a desk, answering emails. That's not the military. So, but, maybe I've helped a couple, because they're super smart kids. And it'd be such a shame that we have this generation of super smart, scientifically savvy kids who cannot enlist, or, go the professional route, get school paid for professional schools, because they're obese. Yep. To me, that's a public health crisis. That's a tragedy.
I have a nephew that he just graduated high school. He wants to go in the military. He will not be able to. He's too obese. And I was telling him.
Is he aware of it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's aware at least.
He's aware of it. He was asking me how, what to do, and I said, well, it's just sugar, it's refined grains. Get those out of your diet. I said, no junk food, no fast food, just eat real food. And he was like, okay. And he was kind of going through the list of things that he can get out. And we hit on, what was it? We hit on Dr. Pepper. I said, you can't drink Dr. Pepper. And he was like, I don't know if I can do that, and he went away, not being sure if he could do it. It's like, well, all right. That's what you got to do.
Did good work. Like, he's thinking about it, right? What do they call it? The pre-contemplative phase.
Right.
Contemplative. So you got him from, he had no clue to, and now he's okay. Every time he picks up a Dr. Pepper now, he's looking at that and flipping it around and seeing how many teaspoons of sugar it's got.
Well, hopefully he can come on and hopefully he can get his stuff together. I don't know what he's going to do if he didn't go to the military, because he's right now he's living in a town with about 6 people in it. I can't imagine there's very many opportunities in there. Oh my goodness. All right. So, in the interest of time, I want to talk about the next subject. I feel like we're rushing through this, but it's good because I'm interested in this as well. You're the running guy. And running's always kind of interested me, because it's something I've never been able to do. I've never been able to run. When I was in high school, I never ran. When I had to take like an elective, I took the shot put, because I didn't want to run.
Hey, you like to throw stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And but I've been losing weight, and I'm wondering if maybe there's a point where I'll lose enough weight that, for my body type, that I would be able to run a 5K or something like that. Yeah. But I have no idea what to do, how to do it. Like, I don't know the mechanics of it. It's just something I've never done. I'm 45 years old. I've never run anywhere for any reason. So walk us through what we need to think about if we're new to running. How do we keep ourselves from being injured? What are some of the things that we need to know?
Yes, I actually wrote a book this year. It's called Run for Your Life. So that we have a website, runforyourlifebook.com. So it's called Run for Your Life. If you just put that in Amazon with my last name, Cucuzzella, it'll pop up. Okay. So certainly walk before you run. And as you know, Aaron, ounces are lost in the gym, pounds in the kitchen.
Right.
So I'm not telling people that are morbidly obese, like you were at 400 pounds. Every pound of body fat that's in excess on your body puts 4 pounds of excessive joint torque force through your hips and your knees.
I feel it in my knees.
When I watch like Biggest Loser kind of things, and I see folks 300-pound in the treadmill, I just want to cry, and I want to take that trainer and wring their neck. And if I hadn't signed the Geneva Convention, non-combatant medical card, and I had a loaded weapon, I might use it, because that is punishment.
Yep.
Right. So we'll lay that out. So do not run if you have excessive weight, because you will overload your joints. That being said, walk before you run and learn to kind of wake up those springs in your body. So the human body is a spring mechanism when it comes to running and jumping. I mean, we have fascia, we have connective tissue. So if you remember when you were a kid or you watch someone jumping rope, it's this nice soft tap, 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 spring, spring, spring. Mm-hmm. So that is pretty soft. So running, like in the traditional ground pounding way, adds about 2 to 3 times body weight load in G's every time you hit the ground. That's like military ground pounding, jogging in big puffy shoes. They throw their feet out. If they're in the gym, like the treadmill shakes. And then you see people just run super slow. We call it slow jogging. It's almost like you would just kind of run gently in place, super soft.
Okay.
And then move your head forward a little bit. And you start moving forward a little bit, but that super soft running in place teaches you a different way of landing. It's different than a walk. Walking is a lever mechanism. Running is a spring. So in jump rope for 30 seconds, that could be like your first run. So you're trying to relearn
I do that.
Interface with the ground.
I jump rope a lot.
If you haven't run at all, like if you haven't had 2 feet in the air at the same time for 20 years because of obesity, all of that spring, which might be true in your life, would you say, like, when was the last time you actually like had 2 feet in the air,
Well, I jump
jogging,
rope.
jump rope. So
I don't know who, I forget his name, but he was on the podcast and he said, I'm going to send you a jump rope. And boy, I took it, I used it, and now I jump when I do my weight training, I end it with about 5 minutes of jump roping each time.
Yeah. So if you can jump rope 5 minutes, tap, tap, taps, light, 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 you're ready to go jog slowly, so what you do is just chuck the rope, but you wouldn't go out and do like, put some mileage, goal. So you might go like, jog, slow running motion for a minute, walk 2 minutes, running motion for a minute, walk 2 minutes.
Okay.
And you're going to kind of progress like that. And your body kind of tells you, wow, I feel good, right? Next day, repeat. And pretty soon you're jogging a little more than you're walking. It's like any couch to 5K program. They're not going to tell you to go out and run 3 miles. Like the first day is like 5 minutes walking, 1 minute run. You're just timed, and you're gradually because the jump rope, Aaron, is teaching you. Can you sense now, like 5 minutes of jump rope, it doesn't hurt your joints?
It doesn't hurt my joints as much as it did. My right knee, every once in a while, will still get a little bit inflamed, and then I'll take a few days off and it'll go away. But considering where it was, a couple of years ago, I'm happy.
And you might have, you're unique in situation. So if you're getting any knee swelling, okay, in 45 and you're carrying 400 pounds, you might have some significant arthritis in that knee.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. You just don't know. And so if you're trying to do that jump rope jog and you like asymmetric, like one side, like this knee is just something ain't right, go get an x-ray just to see what you got. It doesn't mean you can't run, but it might just, oh, wow, if you're like bone on one side, maybe for you, running would not be good advice.
Okay.
I'd say walk. But for someone who's still got good cartilage there, so everyone is like a unique situation and what we would advise them based on their own. But, I think anyone can retrain how to run. It's just go back to the basics. Jump rope.
Well, the basics, I found that when I tried to do like a couch to 5K, and I realized that I didn't even know like how to put my foot on the ground. I would try, landing on my toes, try landing on my heels, try landing, flat footed, and none of it felt right. And I was like, I don't even know how to hit the ground.
Yeah, that's probably because your foot hadn't done much interacting with the ground. So when you're jumping rope, your foot's actually hitting the ground correctly.
I'm almost always on my toes.
But your heel goes to the ground. You're not like up on the balls of your feet. Your foot settles into a full foot, like the lunar lander. So imagine like your big toe, your little toe, and your heel and that arch is a spring, right? That's what the arch is. The human arch is a spring if all the muscles and tendons are working right. So you don't it's all about just settling into that soft position and springing. So when I run, or when anyone who runs pretty efficiently runs, they don't land the same way every time. So if I'm running, I may be running a little bit ball of foot to heel, then sometimes I'll go heel to ball to foot, but it's all springy. I'm not reaching out with my leg with my foot in like a check mark position with my knee locked out. And if anyone's listening, all they got to do is just jump rope softly, and now lock your knees out and point your toes up and hit the ground.
Okay.
That would be like,
right.
It's like a super ball when your foot's working right. Spring, spring, spring. And then you're like a hacky sack or a brick, right?
Right.
But that's the same. That's the load that's going into your skeleton if you don't get that fascia. I have a whole chapter just on the fascia. Okay. Have you noticed, Darren, that just by getting rid of the sugar, just that fascia is the connective tissue? Do you find that your tissue is just healthier? You wake up and you're not sore like if you work out, like you heal.
The soreness, I don't really get sore anymore. And I'm much less prone to injury. Like in the beginning, I would always get a sore, I'd sprain something, pull something. And
because your body was inflamed. Like the diet, people they want to go take ibuprofen, which is don't do that, or ice things, or get stim or inject things. But they clean up the diet. Tendinopathies like Achilles plantar fascia are metabolic diseases. There's one of the lead researchers out of Italy. His name is Nick Muffoli. Spent his whole career studying metabolism and tissue health. And he gave a talk last fall in San Francisco at a big conference. I want to give him a hug. Not that he was just an Italian guy like me, but it's like, wow, he spent his whole life, like what I witness every day. When people clean their diet up, all those little niggles go away. Like, oh, this thing hurts. Like all these tissue things. Like they wake up and they want to run again. Like they feel good.
So what about these? Because I know you have a whole store dedicated to barefoot running. What are these zero drop shoes, and why are they better for us?
Yeah, so a zero drop, just for your audience, if you hear the term zero drop, it means that the forefoot and the heel are the same height. So the opposite extreme would be like a high heel shoe. Your heel is up at like a 30-degree ramp. It's up like 2 or 3 inches. So whether you have a very thin sole or maybe a little bit of cushion, your foot anatomically is designed to be flat on the ground. So if you put your heel up at a 10% grade, from your forefoot, like a ramp, think of the road signs, caution 6% grade, right? That's a big slope. So you have to compensate up the kinetic chain, your knees, your hips, your lower back, because say you were a stack of hockey pucks, not sticks, and you took the bottom and you tilted it 10 degrees, right? You've got to adjust them all or the whole thing's going to fall over. Right. So that's if you want to stand in a good posture, so, you're 45, I'm 52. So about half of people that are your and my age in America now have herniated discs. Now that's pretty effed up, right? I don't think that's a flawed human design, because if you go over to West Africa or someplace, they don't even know what back pain is. Right. It's like, what's this stuff, right? And you see how they walk, they can carry stuff on their heads. Perfect posture. The ladies over there, and they actually can walk more efficient with weight on their head because they walk with spring. And having 40 pounds on their head makes their walking economy better than without the weight. Now that blows your mind. You're like, right. But look how they walk. You can just Google a picture of, African woman balancing, water on their head, right? You just look at head, shoulder, spine, foot, and they're always in like some kind of flat, sandal or something. But flat on, if you have any back pain or hip pain, knee pain, get flat on the ground. And then that's how we want to run too, because, runners get all these injuries too. So it's a transition. So if you've been up in a heel for 20, 30 years of your life, your Achilles tendon gets short, things start to compensate. So, but you want to, just like you and fixing your diet, it's not like a one-day fix, things, you want to reset the body to its normal state, so metabolically with the food and getting yourself in proper footwear, from the ground up. Posture starts at the foot, like it's the base, right? Like a building, the foundation. If your posture is off, and your feet are off, you got to fix the feet first and work up from there.
So I thought these zero drop shoes were like running shoes. Do you
Oh,
wear
no.
them all day long?
All day long. I think the most powerful thing is, I mean, most people stand and walk more than they run.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, so if you're on, like I'm in work in a hospital, I mean, I probably have 15,000 steps even before a self-inflicted run. So like, yeah, if I wore like anything with a heel at this point in my life, you know, after wearing like zero drop shoes for, gosh, 15 years, my back, I would know it in a minute. Like, wow, like I can feel it in my hip and my back. So walking around all day, standing in your house, be barefoot, you know, like just that'll help your posture out. Certainly running, I would suggest the same, but work your way there. But standing and walking, you're not putting load on your body. That's usually the first place to get people to start to fix themselves is, running whatever you want to run in. But when you stand, get yourself flat.
Okay. That's
Gradually
interesting.
reduce the shoe running.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave a talk last night up at a running community up at the Y in Pennsylvania, and a guy found me, he'd watched one of my videos like, 5 years ago, was broke. And he's like, I just want to tell you, like, I watched that video. I went all in, right? It's like you getting rid of sugar. He went all in. He chucked the shoes, started running barefoot. He was broken, had all these injuries. And he's like, yeah. And now he's like running half marathons barefoot. He's like, I haven't had a single injury, and since I started, because he was smart, right? He started really slow, but he built his resiliency up, and now he's bulletproof. Unless he steps on something, he won't get hurt running. There's no way. He's good.
All right. Well, you talked me into it. I didn't realize it was
Where
an
do you
all
live?
national.
Come visit. Where do you live?
Not West Virginia. I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas. Okay. I don't even know anyone down there, but yeah, you're in a good. Go on the Katy Trail. Pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah, Katy Trail. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a big
five
deal.
fingers on. Just go super slow. They even have a little padding on some parts of that, don't they? It's like a little rubbery. Some parts.
Yeah, yeah.
Depending on, yeah, it's a beautiful trail. You've got a wonderful urban trail there.
Yeah, there's a lot of really. I actually live in Arlington, which is kind of it's the cream and the Dallas Fort Worth sandwich. It's where the Cowboys play. It's where the Rangers play. It's where Six Flags is. So yeah, there's a lot going on here, but yeah, there's a lot of outdoor stuff to do. Well, I mean, yeah, I wasn't aware that those shoes were kind of all day shoes. I've been thinking about buying a pair, and
there's even a military boot I helped with. It's called the Belleville Mini Mill, which full legit military boot, but it's flat.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. People love that boot.
So I had one other question I wanted to ask you before I let you go. It was about the military too. Oh my gosh, it just slipped right out of my head. Oh, when we're talking about bringing any kind of change in the military, that's a big. You're giving these talks or anything. Is there anyone like the new general? Is there anyone that's listening to what you're saying and thinking, okay, we need to change what we're feeding these people? We're actually making our own troops fat. Is that idea? Do you see that idea going up the chain of command?
It's yes and no, because the chains of command change so fast.
Yeah.
So the medical community can drive the change. So I think it was about 5 years ago, I gave a talk at the same conference. It's like 400 people conference, all military docs. And they looked at me like I had two heads. Like, that was interesting. That was before like the internet and all the shit, This year, I think they're listening and ready to bring it back to their station and start thinking about it and using it. What we need is like the Surgeon General, like if you were like have like the guy Tom Watson, who's like one of the deputy leaders in Parliament in the UK. So he lost in stone like 100 pounds. They talk in these stones. So he lost a boatload of stones. So he goes up on the Parliament floor and says, look, you got to listen to my doctor friends here. Asim Malhotra and Zoe Harcum.
Yeah.
So like when you get a senior leader, like full health catastrophe, do it after trying everything, right? Like, cause they all go to the gym, right? And that's how I think you'll see like a policy.
Fantastic.
Like
all right.
chow halls will have like low carb options, right? MREs. In my presentation, I showed French MREs. For those who don't know what those are, they're the like deployment packet meals. You know, they come to the things that could survive a nuclear bomb. So I had a picture of the U.S. MREs, which is like 80% carbs, then the French MREs. And I could go eat these French MREs now. It's like canned sardines. It's a beautiful meal. It's like cheese. I don't think they had the wine in there, but I'm looking at that. I'm like, that's a damn nice picnic meal. The French MREs, it's meals ready to eat.
Yeah. You know, the K ration, the K and K ration is for Ansel Keys.
Yes.
He's the guy that started all this
mess.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to keep this around 45 minutes because I know you're a busy man. So tell our listeners where they can get a hold of you, where they can find out more stuff about you, and if they want to learn more about you, and maybe
if there's anyone out there working in hospitals, just reach me on email, AF like Air Force, RUNDOC, rundoc@gmail.com. I have a couple websites which I think are probably worth looking at. One is called Dr. Mark's Desk, Dr. Dr. Marks, MARKS desk.com. And that'll link you to a number of places. That has my shoe store, has my running blog, has a link to my book. Have a book website, runforyourlifebook.com. And we've got a lot of information on running, got a lot of videos we've shot, some stuff on nutrition. If you're out near West Virginia, my store is Two Rivers Treads. That's tworiverstreads.com. It's just a little community. If you live in a small town, support these small businesses. I love just being part of my community, owning a little small business, employing local people, putting dollars back in the community. Tomorrow night we have, every couple of weeks we'll do some kind of community seminar at my store, trying to teach people. Like if you were there, you'd be like, well, I would say just come tomorrow night and let's try to teach you how to run. And we do, just see what the issues are. And It's fun. I'm sure you probably have a couple local running stores down your way. But those are the places that I'm not on social media that much. I'm just too freaking busy with all this stuff.
Right.
So, but my crew at the store is.
All right, guys, we're going to put links to all of that in the show notes, and you can find out more about Mark at all those different things there. So, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was fascinating.
Thank you for what you're doing, and you're just the living example of what 60% of my state needs to do, because that's what our overweight obesity rate is. Actually, it's up near 70%.
It's insane how much.
We need to attack policy. We need to just get the stuff out of schools, out of restaurants. I mean, it's a toxin. And
I agree. Couldn't agree more. Dr. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're going to put links to everything in the show notes. And those of you that are listening, hold on. We'll be right back with some more information.